Welcome to the Idea Leaders Self-Learning series on the co-creation of virtual learning accessibility. This video is about enhancing the accessibility of screen sharing. Introduction. Nowadays, it is very common to make use of screen sharing in preparing educational materials and conducting teaching and learning activities. There are different forms of screen sharing, such as real-time screen sharing through live streaming platforms, screen recording as video, and screenshot images. Real-time screen sharing can be an effective way to display presentation materials during live streaming, such as PowerPoint slides or other media, to walk the audience through a process or program step by step, like a statistical analysis, or to pull up collaborative real-time editing files, like Google Docs or shared docs on Microsoft OneDrive. These online platforms allow users to edit documents together in real time. They can be useful collaboration tools for in-class activities during virtual classes, such as group discussions, essay reviews, and group projects. However, we need to always keep in mind that not everyone can see and hear the content. A shared screen is interpreted by assistive technologies such as screen readers as a video stream. In this situation, there is a lack of accessible elements for assistive technologies such as screen readers to interpret. Some users of assistive technology such as screen reader users are unable to interpret or understand the content being shared. This is also true for other students, such as students attending the live streaming by phone-in, students having online classes with low bandwidth or unstable connection to the internet, and students attending online lecture at noisy environment, or when the earphone, speaker, volume control of the device is not functional. Therefore, it is important to consider the accessibility of screen sharing for online classes and creating educational videos. Accessibility will help foster equal access to shared educational materials through different formats and online platforms. This in turn will foster equal opportunities for students to meaningfully engage in virtual classroom activities to achieve their learning goals. Altogether, accessibility aims to maximize the effectiveness of teaching and learning. This video will focus on real-time screen sharing through live streaming. In the following sections, we will briefly go through some tips for enhancing the accessibility of different stages of screen sharing as follows. Getting started. Before you begin screen sharing. During screen sharing, covering the flow and pace, sharing sound from the device or external sources. The styling and effects of the cursor. Screen magnification. Recording the screen sharing for post-editing. Making annotations, as well as verbalizing relevant visual information. Getting real-time screen sharing started. Send out the materials to be shared on screen ahead of time whenever possible so that the audience could access the materials on their own devices before or during the live stream. Remember that the materials should be created and formatted to be accessible. You are encouraged to refer to the other modules in this self-learning series and our Virtual Learning Accessibility Toolkit for further guidelines on document accessibility and multimedia accessibility. For example, if we have sent the Excel spreadsheets files to students before the class, even if the Excel spreadsheets files suddenly do not work during class, or the shared screen suddenly does not work, or the internet disconnected during live streaming, students can continue to read the Excel spreadsheets files locally on their own devices such as computers. It may minimize disturbance to the flow of class. It will also help the users of assistive technologies such as screen readers to interpret the materials directly. To make the materials more accessible, we may use formats that would allow greater flexibility in converting to alternative formats to cater to the diverse needs of a wide range of students. Avoid providing material only in formats that students cannot easily adapt, such as protected Word documents. For PowerPoint slides, consider reserving an area for video overlay, such as the active speaker's video screen. This avoids obscuring content when inserting the speaker's video screen. Consider getting another device to join the live streaming session as a supporting device, if possible. To avoid confusion, you may choose not to switch on the camera of the supporting device. This allows you to monitor the online session in participant mode while being in presenter mode on your original device. Before you begin screen sharing, notify students and then pause before you begin the screen sharing. For example, you may say,
I am going to start sharing my screen to go through the lecture slides.
Screen sharing may dominate other users' screens. Allow time for the students to reorient themselves to the change in the screen layout. Allow time for students who are reading sign language interpretation to adjust the screen layout to access both the shared screen and the video of the sign language interpreter. Let students know the type of materials that will be shared, such as a document, video or audio, or pictures. For example, you may say,
I am going to play part of a movie related to the historical events we have discussed just now.
Allow students to prepare for any sound coming from the shared content. Students might need to adjust the volume of their device accordingly. Allowing students to prepare for sound also prevents shocking students and minimizes discomfort. For example, you may say,
Be aware of some potentially louder sound in the video. See if anyone wants to adjust the volume level of your device first.
During screen sharing, the flow and pace. Do not go through the content on the shared screen quickly. Allow time for students, assistive technology users, interpreters, and captioners to prepare for and respond to it. Otherwise, it would be a burdensome need to concentrate on the speech for a long period of time, and it bring about stress to some people, such as people with anxiety or panic experiences. Give people time to process information. Pause between topics. When you ask if anyone has questions, some people may need more time to process information or to form their thoughts into words. This could also allow time for those who are reading sign language interpretation to go back and forth between the shared screen content, their interpreter, or the captions. If you would like to change the materials that are shared on screen, for example, after you have been talking about PowerPoint slides for some time, you may want to switch the screen sharing to Excel spreadsheets for real-time co-editing in a group discussion. Pause before doing so and notify the students. Notify students that you are going to pause or end the screen sharing can allow time for students to reorient themselves to the change in the screen layout. Sharing sound from the device or external sources. Allow students to prepare for any sound coming from the shared content. Students might need to adjust the volume output of their device accordingly. Allowing students to prepare also prevents shocking them and minimizes discomfort. If the materials to be shared contain an audio component, avoid extreme volume by adjusting the volume and other sound options of the materials or device before sharing them on screen. Monitor the volume during screen sharing to avoid extreme high or low sounds. Adjust the volume as needed. Sharing sound from your device enables you to stream audio from your device to the students during live streaming. Check whether all the sound from your computer, including notifications, will be shared through screen sharing in the meeting because it might cause distraction. Display settings, cursor styling, and screen magnification. Customize display settings, such as the styling and effects of the cursor or pointer on the screen. Examples include the following: size and shape, color and highlighter, magnifier, speed, sensitivity, and trail display, and on-click effects. Changing the size of your screen, text, or mouse pointer can make it easier for participants to follow along as you share your screen. Make use of a larger cursor to highlight and indicate the main points of the content or the parts being elaborated. Take the built-in display settings in MacBook as an example. Go to System Settings, then go to Accessibility, then Display. In the pointer section, customize the settings of the pointer based on your needs. Why is this practice useful? Adjusting the styling of the cursor or pointer on screen could make it easier to identify it, locate it, and follow up. This may help students to understand the class content, especially students with visual impairment, deaf and hard of hearing students, students with learning difficulties and/or reading disabilities, students attending the live streaming session on devices with relatively smaller screens, such as mobile phones, and students experiencing a poor video or audio quality. Besides the styling and effects of cursor or pointer, there are screen magnifiers, some of which are built directly into the operating system of the device. These tools enlarge the text and images. Take the built-in display settings in MacBook as an example. Go to System Settings, then go to Displays. Then select the extent of screen magnification you need, such as larger text or more space. The screenshots displayed show the effects of viewing the same content under different magnification, which is the default versus the larger text mode. Be aware that changes made to the display might or might not show up in the shared view during live streaming. In addition, They might or might not be captured in the recording or screenshots of the live streaming session. The following are the results of a simple trial of recording changes to the display settings on a MacBook Pro running macOS Ventura 13.2.1. The video conferencing platform used is Zoom version 5.1.5.7. Note that the results are examples for reference only, as this was not a comprehensive trial. Also note that software, programs, and operating systems are constantly and rapidly developing. Statements about the trial may no longer represent their current status. First, the changes made to the pointer size is not visible in the screenshot of the live streaming session. The pointer even did not show up in the screenshot of the live streaming session. Then, we got the same results for the changes made to the pointer size and pointer outline color from white to red. The pointer did not show up in the screenshot of the live streaming session. Next, changes made to both the pointer size and color and the screen magnification were captured in the recording of the live streaming session using Zoom recording. Display settings, annotations. Sometimes, we may make annotations on the materials during screen sharing for brainstorming and collaborative work. Take the annotation tools in Zoom as an example. Meeting participants can add annotations while screen sharing as a viewer or the one that started sharing their screen. You can also use annotation tools when sharing or viewing a whiteboard. Examples of the available annotation tools are mouse, select, text, draw, stamp, spotlight, eraser, format, undo, redo, and clear. The draw tool can insert lines, arrows, and shapes. The stamp tool can insert predefined icons like a checkmark or star. The spotlight tool can turn your cursor into a spotlight or arrow to point out parts of the screen or your annotations to other participants. The spotlight tool can also activate the vanishing pen, which allows the presenter to annotate on the whiteboard or shared screen without having to erase or undo their last addition, as the annotation will fade away within a couple of seconds. And the format tool can change the formatting options of annotations tools like color, line width, and font. There are annotation tools in PowerPoint slideshow as well, such as laser pointer, pen, highlighter, and eraser tool. We need to pay attention to several things to make the annotations more accessible. Verbalize the annotations made during screen sharing. Be aware that the annotations might or might not display and captured properly in the shared view, and the recording or screenshots of the live streaming session. Consider the accessible use of color as visual cue. Be mindful of color contrast of the annotations. Content with sufficient contrast between foreground and background color combinations is easier for everyone to read. Also, avoid using color as the only visual annotations. To enhance the accessibility of annotations, it is suggested to use multiple and distinguishable visual cues to present information, such as color, symbols, and text, to indicate the information. Be aware that the annotations might or might not display properly in grayscale. Some students may print out course materials, such as handouts, in black and white. Take the annotation tools in PowerPoint slideshow as an illustrative example. On the screen, there are several simulations of reading the same colored annotations in different situations of color blindness, including color vision, green deficiency, red deficiency, blue deficiency, and grayscale, respectively. The annotations were drawn by the annotation tools in PowerPoint slideshow. The color blindness simulation is created by Color Oracle. Note that using colored annotations as the only way to elaborate on materials may make them inaccessible to some students, such as students with color blindness, low contrast sensitivity, or some visual impairment. Users who print out slides in grayscale, people viewing slides through monitors in bright sunlight or glare, and people viewing slides through a projector display in a well-lit venue may also be unable to differentiate the slide's colors. Therefore, using color as the only visual cue to convey important information could hinder the user's understanding of the content. Save, export, and organize the annotations in a more accessible format after the class, such as by turning handwritten texts into a typewritten format on the corresponding slides and adding alternative text or image descriptions for hand-drawn notes, or save as alternative formats. Take the annotation tools in PowerPoint slideshow as an illustrative example. When you finish the slideshow, there is an option to keep the ink annotations made during the presentation. It is suggested to keep the annotations for review or to convert them to more accessible formats after the presentation. For example, organize the text-based annotations using text editors like Microsoft Word. With such authoring tools, you may add accessible styling and check and fix color contrast with the help of Color Contrast Check app, respectively. Verbalize relevant visual information. Why is this practice useful? It may help students to understand the class content, especially students with visual impairments, students with learning difficulties or reading disabilities, students experiencing poor video quality, students attending the live streaming session by phone-in or on devices with relatively smaller screens such as mobile phones, and students who, for a variety of reasons, are unable to keep their full visual attention on the presentation materials. This practice is particularly useful for walking the audience through a demonstration, a process, or program, such as writing codes, running statistical analysis, step by step. It may also promote knowledge exchange and community engagement. It may help train you to use more appropriate terminology more consistently in your presentations. It may also demonstrate and advocate the use of proper terminology in different contexts, such as using inclusive rather than stigmatizing terminology at seminars and public talks. What should you verbalize? In general, you may verbalize the on-screen actions you are taking, any relevant visual content that is displayed on the shared screen, and any relevant visual information about the context. We will use different scenarios to illustrate these ideas. Scenario 1. A lecturer points to charts on a slide and says,
"Look at this chart. Let's compare the pie segments of these two charts."
as well as,
Here refers to.
some accessibility issues with this scenario could be the following. What if some students cannot see well or at all? Which chart is the lecturer discussing? Where is that chart? To make this presentation more accessible, avoid simply pointing to the target parts of the materials while elaborating their content. In addition, avoid using vague descriptions such as here, that, or this. Instead, use more descriptive and precise phrases. For example, the lecturer may consider saying the following.
Refer to the pie charts on the left and in the middle, and compare their pies.
And
The overlapping area in the Venn diagram refers to.
phrases such as look at, see there, listen to, or can you hear do not need to be completely avoided. However, the overuse of or over-reliance on these phrases is likely to exclude people who cannot see the slide or hear the audio content. Scenario 2. A lecturer shows different slides while elaborating the content on screen. One accessibility issue with this scenario could be questions as to which slide the lecturer is talking about. To make this class more accessible, it is suggested to describe the location of your actions on the screen, which may also help students to keep track of where you are on the screen. This may also remind them to stay focused on or to re-engage in the materials, or it may help them visualize your actions if they are not looking at or cannot see the screen. For example, the lecturer may consider notifying students when moving to the next slide and saying,
We are on slide 2. Now, go to slide 3.
Scenario 3. A lecturer is instructing students how to write programming codes as part of an in-class activity for an engineering class. The lecturer says,
Click the purple button to upload attachments. Click the green button to search within the codes, and click the red button if you want to submit it.
An accessibility issue with this scenario could arise if some students cannot differentiate between certain colors. In addition, what if there are issues with the device or display and does not show the colors properly? To improve accessibility, avoid using color as the only visual cue. Read aloud any labels. For example, the lecturer may consider saying,
Click the purple paper clip button to upload attachments. Click the green magnifying glass button to search within the codes, and click the red submit button if you want to submit it.
For elements that are only graphics or icons and do not contain text labels, try describing the look of the icons. An example is the paperclip icon in Adobe Acrobat Pro, which refers to attachments. Another example is the paperclip with a magnifying glass icon in Adobe Acrobat Pro, which refers to search attachments. Sometimes, we may even verbalize the appropriate tooltips. Describe the look of the icon and verbalize the corresponding tooltip as its label where appropriate. In many applications, a tooltip appears when hovering over graphical controls or when navigating to them with a keyboard. This is usually the name that will be read by a screen reader and will be used in the program's help or search options. Scenario 4. A lecturer is talking about several systems during an online class and says,
Please raise up your hand or display the raised hand emoji if you agree that System A is better than System B.
After students show their responses, the lecturer says,
Okay, great, thanks for the response. System A is actually better because...
Then the speech continues. An accessibility issue with this scenario could arise if some students cannot see the screen or the responses of their fellow classmates. How will they know many students think that System A is better? To make this exercise more accessible, try verbalizing any relevant visual information in the environment. For example, the lecturer may consider saying,
Okay, great, thanks for the response. So, 1/3 of participants on Zoom and majority of you in the hall here agree that System A is better than System B. System A is actually better because...
Then the speech continues. Some further tips. Identify the content that is meaningful and essential to facilitate your audience's understanding of your presentation. Decorative images for visual attraction purposes might not need to be verbalized. To practice, you may imagine the following. If I was listening to the meeting through the telephone, and I could not see the screen, which parts of this presentation would be confusing? Or, try inviting someone to listen to your presentation without looking at the screen or the materials to be shared on the screen. Seek their feedback on which parts of the materials were hard to follow without seeing the screen. For presentation slides, read aloud the text on the slides. It is not necessary to read all of the text word by word as it appears, but you should cover all of the information conveyed by the text. For more complex materials such as statistical graphs, identify the necessary information. Take a scatter plot as an example. When we verbally describe a scatter plot, it is suggested to verbalize at least the title and axis labels. Identify the image as a scatter plot and describe any change of concentration. If it is necessary to know the details of the data points, convert the data into an accessible table and let students access the table. On the screen now, you will find 4 reference materials about how to describe complex images, such as those related to art, chemistry, mathematics, flowcharts, geographical maps, and tables. You may also refer to the text version of the reference list below the video player on the webpage. The last tip is that practice makes progress. At first, you may find it difficult or unnatural to verbalize much of the content on the screen. But you are the expert on the subject matter. Be confident and determine the essential visual content to be shared and verbalized. With practice, it will be easier to maintain the natural flow of the presentation. Captions and transcript. Captions can enhance the accessibility of the audio content for deaf and hard of hearing users. Captions can also enhance accessibility when students are in a sound-sensitive environment in which playing the audio aloud is not possible. Captions can also enhance accessibility when students are not familiar with the language used in the media. Captions are also useful when the media content involves jargon and many specialized topics. It is important to provide live captioning during live streaming. For recording of the screen sharing, it is also important to provide captions and transcripts. You are encouraged to refer to the modules on the suggested practices of enhancing accessibility of video and audio in greater detail. About screenshot images. Screenshots might be rich in visual information. They would inherently present accessibility barriers to students with visual or cognitive disabilities. Some students may be unable to access the information. This would hinder equal opportunities of participation in the teaching and learning activities. As mentioned in the previous sections, to enhance the accessibility of screenshot images, we need to be aware of color contrast in the essential content. We also need to check whether the important information in the screenshots is properly displayed in grayscale. The use of grayscale is a useful and important practice because some students may print out course materials as handouts in black and white. We need to note that annotations and changes made to the display might or might not be captured in the screenshots of the live streaming session. Screenshots are like infographics. Common formats of screenshots are images and PDF files. For screenshot images in PDF, sometimes the text content in the screenshots may become an image of text instead of real text. Such an image does not contain real text, which means the text cannot be selected, highlighted by cursor, nor edited. It is not accessible to assistive technologies such as screen readers. On the other hand, for screenshot images as a searchable PDF, it contains real text. It means the text can be selected, highlighted by cursor, or edited. Real text is more accessible to assistive technologies such as screen readers. Besides real text content, tags are also essential for screen reader users to access the PDF documents. Tag PDF document content in logical order whenever it is possible. The tags will form a logical and expandable tree structure that allows assistive technologies such as screen readers to identify each element in the PDF and read the content correctly in the intended and logical order. A properly tagged PDF does not necessarily mean the PDF is fully accessible. However, an untagged PDF would not be accessible. You are encouraged to refer to the other module on the suggested practices of enhancing the accessibility of PDF documents in greater detail. It is also important to provide a transcript or text description of the essential content conveyed by the screenshots. Transcripts are the text version of the content conveyed by the screenshots. The information conveyed by the transcripts and the associated screenshots should be equivalent. Users should be able to obtain the same information if they access either the screenshots or the transcripts alone. Moreover, transcripts could be read aloud by screen readers or converted to Braille to enhance accessibility. Transcripts could benefit users with limited access to the internet or limited data plans on mobile phones that cannot support downloading screenshots. Transcripts could also benefit users when screenshots do not load successfully or their browsers block graphics by default. Concluding remarks. To summarize, we have introduced several ways to make the process of real-time screen sharing and screenshot sharing more accessible. The essential tips concern the preparation work before getting the screen sharing started, the flow and pace during screen sharing, sharing sound from the device or external sources, the styling and effects of the cursor, screen magnification, recording the screen sharing for post-editing, making annotations, as well as verbalizing relevant visual information. Screen sharing is just part of the entire process of delivering accessible live streaming sessions. There are other issues that we may consider to enhance accessibility at different stages of the live streaming session. For details, we encourage you to refer to our Virtual Learning Accessibility Toolkit at https://vlaccessibilitytoolkit.hku.hk or download the full text in PDF from HKU Data Repository. You may scan the QR code on screen now to visit the database. We also encourage you to refer to the following useful references. First, the 3 highly relevant guidelines published by the World Wide Web Consortium. W3C, Web Accessibility Initiative. WAI, Guideline on Making Events Accessible. Checklist for meetings, conferences, training, and presentations that are remote or virtual, in person, or hybrid. Guideline on the accessibility of remote meetings. Guideline on making audio and video media accessible. Second, the accessibility tips published by Gallaudet University for a better Zoom or virtual meeting experience for deaf and hard of hearing users. This guideline introduces practical tips and communication rules for having online meetings with other different group sizes of all sign language users or a mix of sign language users and audio users with sign language interpreter support. Other useful guidelines are provided in the Teacher's Guide on How to Make Remote Learning Accessible, published by UNICEF. The Catalogue of Accessible Content, Platforms and Tools, managed by UNESCO. This is a non-exhaustive database of accessible digital content, tools, and resources that can be used to support accessible teaching and learning activities. The information is compiled from all over the world and is regularly updated. Disclaimer.
This video does not contain any business promotion elements. Software, programs, and operating systems are constantly and rapidly developing along with changing accessibility functions. Statements in this video about the functions of any software, programs, and operating systems may no longer represent the current status. The recommended processes in this video are not exhaustive or the best solutions for each situation. It is possible that the hyperlinks of the cited resources in this video might be edited or removed by the corresponding contributor after publication of this video.
You may find the list of references on screen now. You may also refer to the text version of the reference list below the video player on the webpage. Acknowledgement. This project is funded by the UGC Special Grant for Strategic Development of Virtual Teaching and Learning. The first author, Gloria Ma, would like to acknowledge the support of the Postdoctoral Fellowship Scheme, offered by the Research Grants Council of Hong Kong. This work is licensed under Attribution Non-Commercial Share Alike 4.0 International. To cite this video, please follow the suggested citation on screen now. You may also refer to the text version of the suggested citation below the video player on the webpage. For more guidelines on creating accessible digital educational materials and virtual learning environments, please refer to our Virtual Learning Accessibility Toolkit at https://vlaccessibilitytoolkit.hku.hk or download the full text in PDF from HKU Data Repository. You may scan the QR code on screen now to visit the database. You may also download the set of cheat sheets for quick reference and sharing. You are highly encouraged to watch the other videos in this Idea Leaders self-learning series to enrich the knowledge of the basic concepts, practical tips, and resources of enhancing the accessibility of virtual teaching and learning. Here comes to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Let's begin our journey towards co-creating accessible virtual teaching and learning.